Ciao, I'm Mary Ann Esposito.
And I'm Laura Schenone.
Today on Ciao Italia,
Corzetti
and Panzoti. That's it, real fast, real fast. Come on, get that baseball arm moving.
Oh, ok.
Okay. Non c'è ketchup.
No. Già vedi, ti fa la foto.
Basta?
Sì.
Sono molto delicati.
Molto delicato. Grazie a lei.
Grazie Marianna, grazie a voi.
You know, my mother's favorite leftover sandwich. Come on, you're Italian. Isn't this beautiful? Look at how pretty this is. It's delicious. How do you like that? I think you're great. And now we're ready to do the twist. So, looks gorgeous, smells wonderful.
I use my hands.
I love this woman. Okay. So today, Laura and I are going to make two classic pastas, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
From Liguria. And why did I come up with this idea? Because I had read Laura's book, and that was all about your trip to Liguria to find the classic ravioli, right?
That's
that
right.
your family made.
That's right. I was searching
recipe.
for the lost family recipe and the lost ravioli recipes of Hoboken.
Okay, and
And
that was
discovered all of these great pastas.
And it was a great read, and especially the part about the Corzetti, which you're going to make for us
That's
today.
right.
And I'm going to make the Panzoti. But we're going to start with a basic master dough. So in this food processor, we have 1 cup of unbleached all-purpose flour and a cup of what the Italians would call dopo zero, double zero flour. You can find that flour in food catalogs, or you can find it in your grocery store. So we have the 2 cups of the flour and just a pinch of salt. So far, so good, right, Laura?
That's right.
All right, why don't you crack an egg, because
Sure.
we're making this Ligurian style, and you were telling me and also saying in the book that when Ligurians make pasta, they tend to be a little bit more economical than maybe other regions of Italy.
Right, that's absolutely right. So traditionally, Ligurians would use very few eggs and have a lighter pasta. Some people say it was frugality, or you might say that it just makes a lighter taste and lets the other flavors come through. Take your choice. But they do that. Whoops, here we go. Are you ready to have it go in?
Well, I thought
Or you want to put the olive straight in? Okay.
So Laura was nice enough to bring me some Ligurian olive oil, because we're making this really classic. So you want about 2 teaspoons, you said, to start?
Yeah, that's good.
So we have 1 egg and 2 teaspoons of the Ligurian olive oil. And you also said
A crazy thing.
a little bit of white wine.
Yes,
So
it's
we
a
could
crazy
use just
thing.
a dry white wine?
Yeah, it's really in place of water.
Okay, so I'm not going to put too much in there, because I don't know how much
Let's see how we go.
this liquid is going to take of the flour. So why don't we just see, and then we can always correct this. So if you're doing this in a food processor, this is really easy. Or you could do this in a bowl, right? Or you
Absolutely.
could do it in the fontana. So we're going to add this egg and wine mixture, and we may need to add more wine. So when you see it coming around the blade, and that's much better, and also when you do this, you eliminate a lot of the kneading by hand, because the machine is really working the gluten. That's all there is to it. Now we have the right consistency. This is a nice soft dough. Why don't you give a turn as well?
Sure.
And you see it's not sticking to my hands, but just so I have your approval, because you are the expert on Ligurian pasta. How's that feel?
It feels nice and soft.
Nice and soft,
Very
and
nice.
we want to let that relax. So, before you came over,
Yes.
got a dough ready.
How convenient.
So this needs to relax for about 30 minutes. My grandmother always used to say that the dough had to sleep.
Aw.
Isn't that sweet? So we're going to put this off to the side, and we're going to work with our rested dough. You see it's a little darker in color when I can just do that with my fingers, and those indentations don't bounce back.
It doesn't snap back at
It's
you. That's
ready.
what you want.
And you know, of course, years ago, everything was done on mano, but we live in the modern age, and we're busy ladies, aren't we?
Yes.
We write books, we cook, we travel, we do all that stuff. So sometimes a little machine is a big help.
It makes a big difference
So
as
this
to
is-
whether or not you're going to do it or not.
All right, so
Yeah.
this is la macchina. What do you think? Is that thin enough? You can see your
Yes,
hand?
that looks beautiful.
All right, so this is what we want.
Like a piece of fabric.
Yeah. like a beautiful piece of fabric. And I think we're going to have to cut this in half.
Yeah, it's getting big.
I'm going to be in the dining room soon because this is a long sheet of pasta.
This is a piece of theater.
Now, we could make the Corzetti ahead of time, and we need to dry them. Isn't that right?
Yes, you can dry them. Exactly. You have to dry them, or sometimes I put them straight in the freezer if I know I'm not going to use them for a while.
Okay.
There we go.
Wow. We have a drape. Woo! I thought we were going to Hoboken for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is move that pasta machine, and why don't we cut that?
Yeah.
Because we can't work with this
No,
huge sheet.
no.
So that's very thin.
Very thin, very delicate.
So when you make these, you should make them ahead, and you should let them dry some before you cook them, right?
Yes, if I'm gonna eat them that day, I want them to dry for at least a half an hour.
Okay.
I put them out on my porch. I let them rest maybe 20 minutes even, and then I go out and I flip them to let the other side
Okay.
dry up.
All right, so
We ready?
we're ready.
Okay, here we go.
So we take these, and we should tell everyone that we need to cut them first.
Yes,
So
this is the stamp. Well,
Okay.
actually, this is the cutter.
This
we
is the
should
cutter
say.
part, so-
Okay, so
We're going to work on
we'll do this one. You want to meet in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I cut mine terrible. That was a terrible one.
It's a bit of a soft dough.
Okay. I got it. I got it. Okay, so you do 6 and I'll do 6.
Okay.
I got it. Yeah. And you may have to put this in a little bit of flour too, right? If it's sticky.
Yeah, definitely.
But those tap right out.
doing
so that's-
okay.
And then we can re-roll these scraps. Beautiful. Okay.
Okay, you beat me to 6.
All right. All right. So I'm going to take those
There we go.
scraps aside. Now we have these. Now the fun part starts.
This is the fun part.
Now the fun part is,
Do you want to dunk your?
all right, you dunk your stamp, tapping it, right?
Yep.
Do you have to dunk both pieces?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. I mean, this is time consuming, but this is tradition.
This is not an everyday pasta
Right.
either. Come on, this is not going to be a peasant dish.
So it goes on the
Doing
top
an
of the
elaborate
stamp?
thing here. Yes. So you lay it down. Okay.
And
you
press?
put this here, and you give it a little push, maybe even a slight twist, and
Wow.
you have this beautifully imprinted pasta.
Isn't
yes.
that gorgeous? Let's do that again.
Okay.
So, in the flour.
Yep.
Now, what made you be so passionate of wanting to go to discover these particular types of pasta?
Right. Well, it all began because I wrote this first book that was called 1,000 Years Over a Hot Stove, and it was a history of American women told through food, recipes, and remembrances. And it was a big social history. And when it was done, I started to wonder, well, what's my culinary heritage? And I decided I'm a very mixed American with a lot of different roots.
But your family comes from Liguria.
One piece of them, I wanted to find an authentic family recipe. And I almost didn't care which side, if it came from the Croatian side or the Italian. But I did know that my great-grandmother made ravioli. There was a ravioli tool hanging on the wall of our kitchen. And then I just completely fell in love with Liguria and pasta.
That is a beautiful story, and it's why I enjoyed reading your book.
Yeah, thank you.
Because I could really identify with what you were trying to do.
A lot of
Because
Italian Americans
I'm a Southern
way.
Italian, and I never heard of Corzetti before I went to Liguria and before you wrote your book. So once we have them like that, we want to dry them off. So why don't you put them?
Yep.
We put them on a towel. Don't use a fuzzy towel. You want
No,
to use
absolutely
a
not.
cotton towel. So ideally, you say about 30 minutes before.
Yeah, sometimes a little bit, if you really want to dry them, we should say this, if you want to dry them completely so you have absolutely no moisture in them, you'd let them stay out quite a while.
Right, because once they're thoroughly dried and brittle, there's no moisture left, so they cannot spoil.
That's
you could
right,
actually
you could save them.
You could save them.
Or another thing I do is I might stick a tray like this in the freezer, and then when they're hard, scrape them off with a dough scraper and put them in a plastic bag and
They're
keep
so
them in the
pretty.
freezer.
Okay, well, we're going to set those aside, and we're going to do the Panzoti version
we
of
go.
this. So I'm going to put this dough aside because it's a little dry now. We can re-roll that, but let's start with a fresh piece. So we can put those back. I love those stamps. I think they are just works of art by themselves.
I agree.
Without even having to make the Corzetti. Where do you think that name comes from?
It's a coin.
A coin.
Yes.
That's right. Corzetti. And that makes perfect sense, right? Because it looks
They look
just like a
coins.
coin.
Right.
Okay, so now we're going to start over. So let's move that out of the way.
Which
the
this?
pin.
Yeah, sure.
And go back to our setting here on 2. This time we won't go into the dining room.
Okay.
So again, we're putting that through. And for this pasta now, we need to make this a little thicker.
I think so.
And the reason we do is because we have a filling.
It has to hold the filling.
I'll turn that knob
Yep.
to 4 and put that through again. And while you're putting that through, talk to you about the filling. So for this, Ligurians like to fill their pasta with greens, right?
Yes.
Greens and wild herbs. We don't have access to some of the ones they have in Liguria,
No.
right? So we have to use what we have here. But margarine is certainly a classic ingredient. How is that?
Marjoram, borage.
One more. Borage, or borage as we say it.
Boragine.
Boragine, exactly. Swiss chard, spinach.
We might go to the dining room.
That would be what you could use for filling these. Now this is just a little thicker, and we need it this thickness. This is perfect now. So for this particular panzoti, panza means belly.
That's right.
Belly,
Little pot bellies.
because these are little pot bellies, and they're made in a triangular shape. But some places also make them in a round shape. And I first knew about them because I know this little town in the province of Genoa, Rapallo, and you've been there, right? To
beautiful
Rapallo,
place.
which is a nice seaside resort. And close to Rapallo is a little village. It's called San Martino di Noceto.
I've never been there.
And noceto means a walnut grove. And it's perfect for this. What does that have to do with this? Well, we're going to put a walnut sauce with these. So now we have 2 nice sheets of dough. We have our filling, and we need spoons. You start. Go ahead.
And you do 2 rows?
Yeah,
Yes?
2 rows.
Okay.
2 rows. About, a teaspoon.
An olive size.
Yeah, not a lot, because we're going to put the second sheet of dough on top, and then we're going to use this stamp. You see, that has to fit over that. And if we have too much filling, then that's all going to squeeze out. So we want to be really cautious about what we're having there. So did I say that we have spinach, Swiss chard, spinach?
You did, and we were talking about
marjoram,
the love of Ligurians for those green herbs.
right, parsley, eggs.
That's right.
Ricotta cheese is in here. And you can find the recipe on the Ciao Italia website, by the way. So you're doing a nice, neat row.
I'm going
Put some
slower,
right
but
here.
neat, yes.
That's okay, because you cannot rush excellence.
There you go.
That's a quote from Phoebe Ramler. She's my buddy. So you can't rush excellence. Okay, so you put one there.
Yeah.
And let's just wipe our hands off so we don't make a mess of this. That looks good.
Very nice.
Now we can, ready?
Yep.
What?
Okay. Well, I have a little stick.
If it sticks a little,
Okay,
just be
that's
very
okay.
careful with that. Put it right over the top, and
Okay.
you now
Do you
have
stretch
to
a little bit?
I stretch a little bit
Yes.
just so that
To
it
get
doesn't,
the coverage.
you know, and I actually put my hands just
Yes?
in between there.
There you go.
So why don't you put
Yes,
your
sure.
hands in between? And then I just use this cutter, see,
Very nice.
to cut them out. So they make a little triangle. Okay, those look good. Let me get the tray out,
All right.
because once we have these done, then we can go ahead and work on
Right.
our sauce.
Now, of course, if you have one break,
have one,
sometimes
then
you can just do a little
Pinch.
repair. Exactly.
Do a little pinch. But you don't want these to, you don't want the filling to come out in the water, so you have to be really careful. That looks good. We
Yep.
made some ahead, too, because we knew you were coming. Okay, so now that we have the panzoti and the corzetti, we can make the sauce.
All right.
Should we do it?
Let's go.
Okay, we're ready to make the sauce.
Sauce time.
So why don't we start with mine?
Okay.
And this is a walnut sauce that's going to go for the panzotti, and we've got just 2 cups of walnuts in here. And we're going to add some pine nuts and garlic, right? So far, so good. Then what we want to do is just pulverize this and we're going to put that familiar herb in here that you're always talking about. You want to tell everybody what that is?
Okay, we're thinking about marjoram, and basically I have to draw your attention to how much this is like pesto, of
Yes,
course, right?
yeah.
So we know those Ligurians love their fragrant herbs, and marjoram is one of them.
So I'm putting the margarine in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
And so tell us why they love it.
Well, if it goes back to a tradition of foraging for greens in a frugal culture, and we have pesto, of course, which is basil, marjoram, they love rosemary. There is just this tradition of fragrant herbs. So I think as an Italian American, when I went back there, I was interested to discover the cuisine is not red. It's green.
It's green.
So look at those panzoti with the green inside. We have, as I mentioned, the pesto. You're using margarine, and I'm going to use margarine too.
Okay, and I just borrowed some of your Ligurian olive oil. Do you
Nice
mind?
and light, yes, go right
So
ahead.
I'm going to get this into a paste-like consistency. And the last thing I'm going to add to this is some water. I should put a little bit of salt in there as well. Let me see what we have here in terms of consistency. What do you think?
That looks just right.
That looks good.
Just
and then
right,
the
a
water.
paste.
Okay, I'll put the water in after we do the pasta. So there's a little salt. And so I'm going to take this out now, Laura. And while I'm doing this, you're going to talk to us about your sauce.
Okay, I'll get started. This is a very simple sauce. I already have my minced garlic and Ligurian olive oil in there. And what I'm going to do, it's extremely simple and quick, is I just get a moderate heat going, and I'm going to add some pine nuts. Now, some people might like to pulverize these, as you just did, or have them whole. I think they're really pretty whole, so this is about 1/3 of a cup and maybe a 1/2 cup of oil in there.
That looks good. Do you want me
Yes.
to, I know this
I'm
is a
gonna
fast
just-
sauce. Should I put the pasta in?
It takes 2 minutes, so
Okay,
yeah,
let
you
me-
can get started on that. And here we have some minced marjoram, and
Again, the margarine.
the perfume is there.
Okay.
Okay, and of course, many of these sauces don't cook, but this does, because we're going to take some of the edge off of that marjoram.
I like the fact that this is not a long cooking sauce. Well, here are the Corzetti. Don't they look beautiful?
came out beautiful.
And they're
Our
nice and
coins.
dry now. Our
They're
little
like potato
coins. So now we're just
Okay.
going to put them in. I salted the water.
Right.
And this is going to take maybe 2 minutes.
That's it.
2 minutes to cook. So I'm going to give
Maybe
them a
even
little
less,
stir. I'll give
'cause
them
it's
a
quite
little
thin.
stir. Yeah, because these are very,
Very
very,
thin.
very
It
thin.
might even be a minute and a half.
Now, how often do you serve these at home?
This is a special dish. If you're, this is not noodles. I think that whenever you're using a wood cut and stamping out one thing at a time, this is not an everyday thing.
Right.
It's a special occasion.
Okay, so while you're doing that, I'm going to get your dish ready for the pasta
Okay.
because we want to put this in a nice bowl.
And I should just say that that walnut sauce, which is divine, and more Americans should know about it, is great on Corzetti also.
Good. So we
Yes.
can use it for that as well.
That's right.
Okay.
I think.
You want to check that? Oh, can I have some of that water? Because
Yes.
I need some of that starchy water to thin down mine. So I'm going to put that right in there. Mix that up so it's a little thinner. And you say that your sauce is going to go on top of the Corzetti, right? Instead of
that's
being
right.
mixed all together.
Again, this is very similar to that pesto tradition. A very simple sauce based on herbs.
This smells good.
I'm telling you, that is a beautiful sauce. I don't know why Americans don't know it. And panzoti is a beautiful dish.
So while you're doing that, I'm going to transfer my sauce to my pan because unlike your dish, I'm going to mix mine right in here once I have them cooked. I'm not going to use all this because we made so much, just about that much. If I need more, I can come back
That looks
and
good,
get it.
always.
I'll leave it there, and
I think we're just
you think
about
they're
ready.
done?
I do.
All right, now to scoop those out, what do you do?
Well, these are a little more firm than your fragile panzoti. So I'm just going to tilt this, pull this out. You probably could put them in a strainer and pour them into the sink. You can scoop them, but I'm just going to do this.
Here's your bowl.
Okay.
This is looking good. That didn't take long at
No,
all.
it's done. Actually, why don't we just
Want to turn
turn
that
it
off?
off?
Okay.
And I'm just going to, I like to leave just a little water in there. Okay.
Oh,
And you can see the images still.
how pretty that
Yeah.
is. All right, so now, while that water's still going, I'm going to put mine in. Now, while you're saucing yours, so here are the panzotti. There they are, all ready to go. So now we want to turn that heat up again, and carefully, because these are filled, of course, we don't want to bust them, as you can imagine. We want to get them gently in there.
You never
And let
know.
them
Even the
cook.
best one can have one
All right.
bust, right?
Because you cannot rush excellence. I keep saying
That's
this.
the theme of the show.
Okay, that's the theme of the show. So I just give these a very gentle stir and put the cover back on till those come
Bring 'em right back
to the
up
boil.
to the boil.
Maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and that's going to be ready. Let's see what this looks like. Wow.
It's very simple.
Very
And
good.
then the last thing at the end is some
The
Parmigiano.
cheese. Now you could use Parmigiano Reggiano, but what other cheese could you use?
Grana Padano.
Grana Padano. You're using a lot of
I
cheese.
know. I like it.
That's a lot
I know,
of
but it's
cheese.
good. Again, I think of this as a relative of pesto. So if you think of it that way,
I have to get a spoon because
you want
I
to
must.
taste. You must.
I must.
Get some with cheese and
well, they
pignoli.
all look good.
Okay. What do you think? You taste that marjoram?
the marjoram really comes through.
Isn't it nice?
Delicious, delicious. And that's all there is to that, right?
Isn't it?
So
So
what-
you have a very complicated pasta with a very simple sauce.
Okay, Laura, I think those are done.
They're floating
They're
nicely.
floating nicely.
Nothing, it looks like
So-
everything is intact.
Everything's intact, so I'm going to put this back on the flame. Can you turn the flame on there?
Sure.
And now, unlike yours, where you simply just drained them, you have to pick these up with a scoop. Let's put these down and
Go.
gently. You can see the filling has stayed nicely. You'll know you've done a good job if there is no filling floating around in the pot. And
There's
this
nothing
pot
worse.
is perfectly clean. So we did a good job.
good.
And I don't think we mentioned that besides marjoram, the other herb that is so dear to Ligurians is what?
Boragine.
Boragine, but what about basilico?
Oh, basilico. I
Basilico.
said pesto. But
Yes.
yes, at the heart of Liguria, that's actually their big culinary symbol.
Right,
is
basilico, basil.
Grown very tender, harvested very young and tender.
All right,
bright
that's
green.
looking good.
This is good. I'm
Okay, so
telling you.
now we can take that and we can put it right here. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that.
Sono belli.
Sono belli. Allora,
We don't want to lose
due
this.
più.
And you know what? You don't want to miss that beautiful walnut sauce.
I'll be
There
licking
we
the
go.
pan
Yeah, it's
later.
Really good.
So Laura, I think this is fantastic.
That's exactly what they're supposed to look like.
So
Beautiful.
there you have it. 2 fabulous, classic pasta dishes from Liguria and Laura. I'm so glad you came to my kitchen today, Laura, because we made 2 classic Ligurian pasta dishes. And you started right there with those fabulous stamped pasta,
Corzetti.
Corzetti. Want to tell everybody what you did?
Sure. We started off with a simple dough, simple except there was a little white wine in it. And then we stamped them out, cut them and stamped them out with this beautiful cutter and left an imprint on them. After we cooked them, a nice simple sauce of garlic, light oil, meaning light Ligurian olive oil, pine nuts, marjoram for that beautiful fragrance, and then a nice healthy dose of cheese at the end.
They're absolutely delicious, and the flavor of the marjoram really comes through. And then we made a stuffed pasta. And this pasta we stuffed with greens because that's what Ligurians are known for, right?
They love their herbs and greens.
And we have spinach, and we have Swiss chard, and parsley, and borage. And they're absolutely wonderful, topped with a classic walnut sauce that we made with walnuts and pine nuts and garlic, ricotta cheese, and a little bit of that Ligurian olive oil and some of the water from the pasta. right?
That's right.
Well, you and I did a fantastic job, I think, and we deserve a little toast. So, chin chin.
Chin chin.
Thanks for coming to my kitchen. And until I see you nella cucina again, I'm Mary Ann Esposito.
And I'm Laura Schenone.
Ciao.
Ciao.